Here in India, a legal tussle is underway. The country's biggest bank versus the country's top court. The State Bank of India versus the Supreme Court of India. I know it sounds like a nail-biter, but trust me, it's not. The court is showing the SBI who is boss. It all started with a verdict last month. A 5-judge bench scrapped India's electoral bonds. These were campaign funding tools. They allowed people and companies to donate money anonymously. First, you had to buy bonds from the SBI, the State Bank of India. You buy bonds from there. Then you could donate them to a party. And finally, these parties could encash those bonds. But last month, the court abolished the system. It also issued directives to the SBI, provide details of the bonds to India's Election Commission. The date of purchase, the name of the purchaser, the bond amount, and also what each party got. The bank was told to share all this information. This information is stored within the SBI. So the court asked the bank to hand over this data to the Election Commission of India. The deadline was March 6th. But the SBI wanted an extension. They said, we can give this data only by the end of June. Why the delay though? The SBI says it is taking time to match the data. Apparently, the bond information is stored in 2 silos. One deals with the purchasers, the other deals with the political parties. So the bank is trying to match the two. But the Supreme Court is having none of it. The judges have refused to extend the deadline. They also had some sharp words for the bank. Listen to this.
We have not told you to do the matching exercise. We have asked you for a plain disclosure. Therefore, the ground on which you seek an extension of time to make the disclosure does not accord with the directions in the judgment at all. In the last 26 days, what extent of matching has been done by you? What steps have you taken in the last 26 days? The application is absolutely silent on that.
We can put a detailed affidavit on that one, because I know
it should have been disclosed in the affidavit.
I agree, man. I agree.
State Bank of India, which is coming to us, we expect that there should be a degree of candor on the part of the State Bank of India. That this is what the work which we have done. The work is at this stage. We need an extension of time to carry out the balance of the exercise which remains.
The new deadline is tomorrow, the 12th of March. By the close of business hours, the data must be given to the Election Commission of India. If not, well, there could be trouble. A few contempt petitions have been filed against the SBI. They accuse the bank of violating the court's order. Today, the judges did not act on them, but they did warn the SBI. The bank has been put on notice by the Supreme Court of India. If tomorrow's deadline is violated, there will be consequences. Which brings us to the big question. Why was this deadline so controversial? Why did the SBI want an extension? Well, the opposition has its own theories. India's elections are slated for this year. The assumption is the election will be over by the end of June. So suppose the court granted the SBI's extension, then the bond information would have been published only after the voting. Of course, the SBI has not accepted this. Their argument is technical, that the whole process will take some time. But the Supreme Court is asking, why should it? After all, every bond purchase has a routine process. The KYC is done, an application is drawn, and of course, payment confirmation is taken. All of this has a digital trace. So the court says this should be easy. The SBI should not be taking so much time. Now, I know that the electoral bond is a sensitive issue. It's also deeply divisive. But the question here is not so much about the bonds, because that was settled last month, that question. The Supreme Court declared these bonds unconstitutional. The question here is about the SBI. We are talking about a national institution. It dominates the Indian banking space. It has around 1/4 of the market share, around 480 million customers, and over 22,000 branches. The SBI is not just another bank in India, so today's court observations will hurt its image. It also makes tomorrow very interesting. Once the SBI submits the data, assuming that they do, the action will shift to the Election Commission. Again, there's a deadline. The Election Commission must publish the bond data by March 15th. Interesting times ahead. We'll be tracking this story closely.